Good afternoon, Central Indiana. It's Wednesday, March 29th here in metropolitan Indianapolis, and you're tuned to 91.9 FM, WITT, the home of unpredictable music, and the Indy's Trusted Servant Show with yours truly, Danny O'Malia, Indy's Trusted Servant. Listen every Wednesday from 4:30 to 5 for lively local small biz and community talk with Danny O'Malia, Indy's Trusted Servant. I do customer service training and keynote speaking about customer service. It's all about the culture, like the famous culture at O'Malia Food Markets used to have. And if you'd like to learn more about that, give me a call at 317-413-9062. Each week we do lively local small biz and community talk, and we've been doing a lot of community talk lately, but we're into small biz right now. And my guest today is a guy that I just met in the last month or so at a networking event in Lawrence. His name is Jay Cox, and he is a financial advisor. And I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about that. But specifically, he mentioned that he was really into helping folks get the most out of Medicare and Medicaid. And I'm really a Medicare member and have been for several years, given my age. And I'm really, really interested in helping people figure out how to negotiate this very complicated issue. By the way, we're brought to you by our underwriters, Fabric Care Dry Cleaners and Redemption Ale Works, and our host, My Pet Carnivore, and more on them later. But let's get to my guest, Jay Cox. Jay, welcome, and thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Danny. My pleasure.
Well, it's great to have you. I mentioned you were a financial advisor. Why don't you give everybody your background a little bit so they'll know how you got to where you are now, and certainly the name of your current company that you own. You are the guy.
Yes. Yes, I'm the sole proprietor of a limited liability company called Personal Benefits Service. My background is that I'm old enough to have come along at a time when there was this involuntary conscription service known as the draft available. And courtesy of a number 39 in the lottery one year, I got to spend a few years in the service of our country, spent 6 years in the Marine Corps. Upon my discharge, went back to school on the GI Bill, earned a degree in accounting, not with the intention of becoming an accountant, but simply to learn the language of business, and ended up going into the financial services business, where I worked for the next 20 years for a major Wall Street investment firm, for retiring in 2002, and then in 2003, starting my own company, Personal Benefits Service, which is located at the Fort Harrison Office Park in Lawrence, Indiana.
Now, when you were on Wall Street, were you in New York or were you here in Indy?
Well, I had initial training in New York City at the headquarters, then worked at the regional office in Rochester, New York, before coming to Indianapolis.
And you've been in Indy
since 1994.
1994. So you're here about 10 years before you started your own company.
That's right.
Okay, great. And the name of the company again?
Personal Benefits Service.
We'll talk about contact information just a little bit later. But one of the products, the product that piqued my interest the most, or the area that piqued my interest the most, was this whole Medicare, Medicaid thing. I remember when I signed up for Medicare, just went to the Medicare office. It turned out pretty good, but I've always wondered, am I getting the most out of it that I can? I don't know. Both are very complicated. You're here to help people figure that out. Am I right?
That's right. The main reason I want to talk about this, Danny, is that retirement planning is more than just financial decisions. In fact, if you're basing your retirement strictly upon financial decisions, you're putting yourself in grave danger, because I've always said that health care has to be as much a consideration. In fact, I tell people I want to help them to protect their health and build their wealth for a safe and secure future.
Well, and you go on Medicare at 65, but that's not the story. You got to start working on both your financial well-being and thinking about Medicare and when to go on it and all the other stuff way earlier than that. Tell us about when you should be doing that.
Well, that's right, Danny. If you wait until 65, you basically have waited too long. You've foregone a lot of the opportunities to be better prepared than if you had began considering this earlier. I tell people, in reality, as you're going to hear me explain in the course of this program today, this is something that not only should you start thinking about before 65, this is something you should be thinking about in your 50s.
Or maybe even before that, no matter when you want to retire, right?
That'd be great if you do, but at least begin by the 50s. And as
Yeah.
I said, we'll explain why.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to the basics. First of all, for the uninitiated, what is Medicare?
Well, Medicare is the federal government's benefit program for people who are over the age of 65, unless you've received a Social Security disability to begin earlier. But it begins at 65. It's not like Social Security where you have a choice, with the exception of if you might happen to still be working and receiving health care as an employee benefit, you're allowed to delay the start of your Medicare. Otherwise, it will begin on the month you turn 65 on the first day of that month.
Yep. Okay. Super. Now, have you been giving, you've been having money taken out of your paycheck your whole life for Social Security? Not the case with Medicare, right?
That's correct. That's not the case with Medicare. That's not a requirement.
So there is a Part A and a Part B, and I want to tell a story of a good friend of mine who is on a limited, he's retired. It's a forced retirement because of health. He's my age, 69. He's on a limited budget, and when he went on Medicare, he decided not to take Medicare Part B, and recently his wife fell and broke her leg, and it's killing them. Okay. I think they would have been a lot better. So give us, especially for the ones that aren't there yet, explain the Part A and Part B thing.
All right. The laws that govern our conduct of Medicare were actually signed into law by President Lyndon Johnson back in 1965, and we basically have the same system in place to this very day. There's what's called Original Medicare, the 1965 law, which consisted of a Part A and a Part B. Now, we had a major change in our Medicare laws in the year 2005, but up until that time, all we had were Part A and Part B. Part A covers hospitalization as an inpatient, and Part B covers medical expenses referring to doctors and outpatient services.
Uh-huh. And it's wise to take both, correct?
Yes, it's a major mistake not to. Technically, you can opt out of there's no charge to receive Part A. Everyone will receive that at 65.
Right.
Technically, you can opt out of Part B, but if, as you said with the story of your friend, if you decide to add it later on, you will pay a permanent penalty based upon the length of time that you were without the coverage, and the longer you go on, the higher that penalty goes.
Right. And if you don't do anything with it at all, you end up like my friend, and you end up paying, well, he can't pay it.
Well, there is a cost for the Part B premium. It is deducted from Social Security.
Correct.
And it is adjusted annually. But it is for the benefit that it provides you, it's a great deal.
It looks like going in, it might be high, but boy, all you need is a couple of things happen, and it's a great benefit.
Absolutely.
Yep. You're really pretty much lost without it. Now, what about Medicare Supplement and Medicare Advantage?
Well, that's the most important thing people need to know about their Medicare coverage. You have choices and you have options as to the type of coverage you can receive. You really don't want to stay in Original Medicare because Part A says that if you have to be hospitalized, you pay a deductible and Medicare will cover the costs after that, but the deductible for 2017 happens to be $1,313.
Okay.
And as far as Part B goes, Original Medicare says the government will pay 80% of those medical costs, but you would have to pay the other 20%. So there are two choices that you have as an alternative to help you
Beyond
pay
Part
for that.
B.
Right.
Okay.
Right. The first is the Medicare Supplement, and the second is something called the Medicare Advantage. Now, the Medicare Supplement is a situation where, let's start by saying this. You will have a cost for either the supplement or the advantage, either in the form of paying a monthly premium or paying copays. If you have a Medicare supplement, you pay a monthly premium, but you do not have copays. In the case of a Medicare Advantage, you do not have a monthly premium, but you do pay copays.
Gotcha. Okay. So you just have to decide which is best for you.
That's right. The Medicare Advantage is known as a Part C benefit, and it includes coverage for both Part A and Part B, as well as the new service that came along with it in 2005, which is called Part D, the prescription drug plan.
We'll come back to that, but we have to take a quick, not commercial break, but underwriter break to thank our underwriters for the show and our host for the show. The underwriters are Fabric Care Dry Cleaner out by the old airport on East Washington Street. And I've lost my notes on Fabric Care Dry Cleaner. How about that? I don't know what oh, here we go. Fabric Care Dry Cleaner is at 5760 West Morris Street at West Washington, out by the old airport. They're specialists in all sorts of dry cleaning. They have a laundromat open from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., 7 days a week. They do pickup and home delivery twice a week at my house, and their phone number is 241-1288. And you can find out more about Fabric Care on Facebook to learn more. The second underwriter is Redemption Ale Works, and that's ALEWERKS at 7035 East 96th and Fishers. That's halfway between Allisonville and I-69 on the south side of the street where their old Blue Crew was. And Redemption Ale Works brews their own beer on site. They have lunch, dinner, late night snacks, and beverages, and very family friendly. And their number is 348-3330. 348-3330. And Redemption Ale Works, WERKS, is also on Facebook. And finally, our host here at the studio, My Pet Carnivore in Fountain Square on Shelby Street. Pet food for the spoiled dog and cat by the owner who wants the most healthy, delicious pet food available. And these folks deliver this pet food from Chattanooga to Grand Rapids, but mostly around Indianapolis. And we want to thank them for loaning us some space in their distribution facility here because they love the eclectic music on 91.9 FM, and they love the Indy's Trusted Servant show as well. So, next week's guest will be Erin Smith, and she is a fellow Rotarian, and she is going to tell us about a fundraiser down on the south side. It's called the Rock the Block 5 and 10K Walk. And more on that next week. But my guest today is Jay Cox, who is a financial advisor. And the name of your company is?
Personal Benefits Service.
Personal Benefits Service. And he's here to talk about a specific part of his services, and that is the Medicare and Medicaid. And we were talking about the supplements and the Medicare A and B. And you were about to say something, then I rudely interrupted for the underwriter break. Do you remember where we were?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I was also going to talk about a special way of being able to get additional Medicare benefits that are called managed care programs.
There you go.
There are two areas that become of concern here. The first is a program which is called dual eligible. This is for people who have Medicare either by having turned 65 or by having received a Social Security disability benefit, as well as a program from the state of Indiana by the name of Medicaid. Medicaid is for people based upon income and asset needs, and it's able to give a complete coverage for for a Medicare Advantage program without having the co-pays that are required because of the low income and asset situation.
Now, so my gut, I'm a member of Medicare, not Medicaid. Can you belong to both at the same time?
Yes, you can.
You can.
Yes,
Okay.
you can. And the reason is Medicaid is based upon income and asset need. An individual cannot have income in excess of $1,350 a month or $1,800 for a couple, and not exceeding assets of $7,900 for an individual or $9,000 for a couple.
Total assets?
Total assets.
So Medicaid is more for, let's just call it the poor, right?
Yes,
Which
absolutely.
is what I thought. But how do you do Medicare and Medicaid at the same time then?
Well,
How's that work?
Well, in the first place, if you're going to receive Medicare, it's a program you get from the federal government. If you receive Medicaid, it's a program you get from the state government. And there is a new program that's available now, which has just recently come into existence. It was a model program in Marion County in 2016 and is now available in all the Donut County area for 2017 for people receiving Medicare and Medicaid, which is a special program they have to enroll in to be able to receive.
Okay.
And
They do this with the state?
well, they do this through qualified brokers such as myself who
Oh,
are
okay.
qualified by the federal government to do the enrollments.
Okay, well, as long as we're talking about that, why don't you give us your contact information, just
All
in
right.
case anybody listening wants to learn more about that.
Yep. My office is at the Fort Harrison Office Park at 56 and Post Roads. The phone number is 317 559 2140, or you can email with questions at jcoxindiana@live.com.
Okay, very good. So continue on with the Medicaid thing and the difference between the two.
Okay. Yeah, the difference between the two, as I said, there are actually two kinds of what are called managed care programs. Dual eligible is the first, relating to income needs. The second is what's called a special needs plan, and this is for people who are suffering from particular types of chronic illnesses, which would include diabetes, anyone who's suffering from high blood sugar, or lung-related diseases such as emphysema or COPD, or heart-related diseases including heart attacks, strokes, and TIAs. And here again, this will provide access to special needs, specifically designed Medicare programs that are specifically attuned to the needs of people with these types of chronic illnesses.
Okay, that's a lot of heavy duty stuff. What percentage of your clients would be on Medicare versus Medicaid?
Well, it's difficult even for an agent like me to know, because in the situation relating to Medicaid, there are actually 5 different categories of Medicaid coverage, and this new federal government program is only
Wow.
available to people in a particular category called a qualified Medicaid beneficiary. So all we can do is get somebody's Medicaid number, call the state, give them the number, and see if they happen to be in the category for which the benefit is available. These are the people we can enroll to be able to receive this. Probably 1 in 3 inquiries I take from people with Medicaid are people who are not in the category that would qualify.
Because they earn too much money,
No,
or because they're too young, or what?
Well, simplest way to put this, Danny, is to say that there are categories that the government says they'll cover and categories that they say they won't. So
And it takes an expert to
bring on the
unfurl that.
government and ask them.
Yeah.
All I know is I have to call the state, give the state the Medicaid number, and they either say yes, they qualify, or no, they don't.
Now, let me ask you this question. You've been a financial advisor all this time. When did you get interested in doing Medicare and Medicaid specifically, and why? How'd that evolve?
Well, that's a great question, Danny, because back in the year 2005, there was a major change that took place in our Medicare laws. This is when a program called the Medicare Modernization Act first became available, creating the Part C and the Part D benefit.
Okay.
If you recall, I said originally we had a Part A and a Part B. In 2005, we got a Part C and a Part D, and I became active at that time. So I've been involved with these programs since then, because enrollment through these programs is covered through what's called an annual enrollment period. When you turn 65, you have the opportunity to enroll in your choice of Medicare programs at that time. But then every fall, during what's called the annual enrollment period, you have a choice of making changes between the programs at that time.
Right.
And that's between October 15th and December 7th. When you turn 65, you have 3 months before the month of your birthday and 3 months after to enroll. If you don't and you enroll later, as we said earlier, you'll pay a penalty.
This is important stuff.
Or then you can make changes every fall, because not only your needs change, but so do these programs. However, when it comes to these managed care programs I just spoke about, the dual eligible and the special needs, there is actually a year-round open enrollment period for these. Therefore, if you enroll today, such as just before I came in today, I enrolled a lady into a dual eligible program. Her benefit will become available the first day of the following month. So the benefit that I enrolled her in today will be effective on April 1st.
Okay, and that's very important. What percentage of people do you think miss their 3 months before and 3 months after their 65th birthday and end up paying the penalty?
Fortunately, not too many.
Really?
Well, I would credit the vast availability of advertising information on television about
Yes, there
Medicare.
is.
Although
Yes, there is.
that's also a two-sided sword, Danny, because 1 minute you could hear a commercial about Medicare supplements, and the next you could hear a commercial about Medicare Advantage, and the two ideas just kind of blend together in your head.
It's true.
So you think you know what you're talking about, when in reality you probably really don't, which is why you really need the services of a professional. You can call the help desk for any of the insurance companies, and you'll get Bob on the phone, who's your immediate best friend for as long as that conversation lasts, and then you'll never speak to Bob again. Or you can deal with an agent who will give you advice every fall during the annual enrollment periods about the changes, and make sure that what you need is what you continue to get.
It is complicated. Well, we've got one more underwriter break, and then we'll be back with my friend Jay Cox talking about Medicare and Medicaid. You're listening to the Indy's Trusted Servant Show on 91.9 FM WITT. Listen Wednesdays from 4:30 to 5 p.m. for lively local small biz and community talk. Next week on April 5th, my guest will be fellow Rotarian Erin Smith, and she's going to talk about the Rock the Block 5 and 10K fundraiser on the South Side. We're talking business today. We're going to talk community next week. We want to thank our underwriters, Fabricare Dry Cleaners at 5760 West Morris Street at West Washington, out by the old airport. They're specialists in all sorts of dry cleaning. They have a laundromat open from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. They do pickup and home delivery twice a week at my house. Their phone number is 241-1288, and you can find out more about Fabricare on Facebook. The second underwriter is Redemption Ale Works, Alewerks, at 7035 East 96th in Fishers, halfway between Allisonville and 69, where the old Blue Crew used to be. Redemption has now been there a couple of years. They do brew their own beer on site. They have lunch, dinner, and late-night snacks and beverages, and it's a very family-friendly place. Their phone number is 348-3330, and you can go on Facebook, but you won't find them unless you type Alewerks, Redemption Ale Works. And our host, My Pet Carnivore, on South Shelby Street in Fountain Square, is a pet food distribution company that sells pet food to cat and dog owners from Chattanooga to Grand Rapids. It's healthy and tasty pet food, and they have been kind enough to loan some space in their distribution facility to 91.9 FM because they love the eclectic and unpredictable music, and they love the Indy's Trusted Servant Show. So listen every week for lively local small biz and community talk. And now back to my guest, Jay Cox, talking still about Medicare and Medicaid, and we're talking about the complications and why somebody should. It sounds almost as it can be as complicated and as daunting as doing your taxes, signing up for these programs, can it not?
Yes, we have, and I often think we've gone too far in this generation in our self-help programs now. People can very often end up making more of a mess of a situation by trying to do it themselves, as opposed to using the assistance of a qualified agent, particularly when there's no charge to people for our services to help them find the best benefit.
There is not?
There's not.
No?
Nope. I tell my clients they get the best of both worlds. They get my services, and they don't have to pay for them.
Well, how do you get paid?
Well, when I help them find a company that they would like to enroll with, if I do the enrollment, I'm paid by the insurance company.
By the insurance company, okay.
But I should point out to you, Danny, the federal government has made arrangements so that there is no incentive for me to try to steer people between companies that might pay me more, because the federal government sets the fee that I'm paid for helping people enroll. And it is a fee. It's not a commission.
It's a flat fee.
It's a flat fee, and it's the same for any company. So I have my sole intention is to help people find what's best for them.
Gotcha. Now, once again, it's so important to start thinking about this at an earlier age, right? It's
Very
hard
much so.
when you're in your, when you're young and you're raising your family and whatnot, right?
That's right.
It's hard to imagine getting to be 65, but I think the three people sitting in this room, Russ Dodge, our radio guy included, will tell you it's going to happen.
It's going to happen, and the thing is, with these Medicare programs, Danny, it's very important to understand not only what they do, but more importantly, what they do not do. Because, as I said, we're operating on a system that's still based upon standards that were written back in the year 1965.
A lot has changed.
A lot has changed, and the benefits have not grown to keep up with the advance of modern science. And people could very well end up in situations where the benefit that they receive from Medicare, they will find out is a good basic benefit, but it may not be financially sufficient for serious medical needs that might arise later.
There you go. Well, and I'm a great example of that because my wife, who's a year younger than I am, underwent double knee replacement a month ago today. And I can't imagine what that would be costing if we didn't have the supplement.
The supplement or the advantage.
Yes, and the advantage, yes.
Because the situation is, Danny, that there are actually about 5 million more people enrolled in advantage programs now than supplements. Every year, starting from a basis of 0 in the year 2005, when these programs began, and I began with my work with them, the number of people enrolled in the Advantage program has increased each year to the point now where we have about 18 million people in Advantage programs and only 12 million something in supplements.
Now, why would that be?
Money, cost.
They have to choose one or the other.
They choose
right?
one or the other, and as I said, in the case of a supplement, you pay a premium for that, which is not only going to begin even at the age of 65 at about $150 a month, but it goes up each year. It's what's called an attained age policy, which meaning the older you become, the more expensive it becomes.
Yeah, because you're getting more expensive.
Right. So in the case of a Medicare Advantage, what's happening is that, as I said, you're not paying a premium, but you are paying a copay. And unfortunately, people just like to stop hearing what I say when I say you're not paying a premium before I say you're also paying the copay.
Yep.
Because not only can the copays mount up, but the coverage is only going to be for a certain amount, in which case, in many instances, the difference has to be paid by the consumer.
Now, okay, we got time for maybe one more question that comes to mind. Does the whole issue of Obamacare versus Obamacare replacement play into this at all? I don't think it does.
No.
That is all irrelevant to this.
Obamacare is for, or I guess we call it Trump Care now.
Well,
whichever. It's the
whatever
Affordable
it's gonna
Care
be.
Act.
Yeah.
The Affordable Care Act is for people under 65. Medicare is for people over 65.
That's pretty simple, but I think that needed to be clarified. Well, you got about a minute to go. What do you want to finish with?
Well, what I would just finish with is to note that people need to learn what is covered by these programs because the opportunity is there to be able to use a policy I do a lot of work with called indemnity plans. Indemnity is not insurance. Indemnity says whatever a service costs you, you get as a reimbursement. And I recommend the use of indemnity plans, especially for Part A hospitalization, because
Gotcha.
you're paying the cost through the copays. And if you end up being in an extended stay, those costs can become quite high. Whereas these indemnity programs are actually very inexpensive, they're very effective, and they can provide the reimbursement for what it's going to cost you out of pocket. That's why you need to start thinking about these early, because the sooner you enroll in them, the less the premium is going to be, and they are what are called issue age policies, which means the premium at the time of issue stays your premium.
Jay Cox. And the name of your company?
Personal Benefits Service.
Thanks for being my guest on the Indy's Trusted Servant Show. Listen to the show every Wednesday from 4:30 to 5 for lively local small biz and community talk. Thanks to our underwriters, Fabricare Dry Cleaners, Redemption Ale Works, and our host, My Pet Carnivore. Don't forget to listen next week for Aaron Smith about the 5 and 10K run on the South Side. I forget what charity it's for, but it's for a very good one. And don't forget to listen tonight at 6 o'clock for Indianapolis Nocturne with your host, Russ Dodge, and his buddy, Devin Dean. Unpredictable music from the 60s through 2000. Talk to you next week. Have a good one.